We begin with major developments in the Jerry Sandusky child sex abuse case. While the ex-Penn State assistant football coach sits in prison for raping 10 boys, his former bosses are on the outside, now charged with covering up the scandal.
Attorney General Linda Kelly dropped that bombshell today, formally charging former PSU president Graham Spanier.
And also piling on more charges to the former vice president and the athletic director, implying the school's top 3 leaders conspired to keep Sandusky's actions a secret.
By these men. It was not an oversight. It was not misjudgment on their part. This was a conspiracy of silence by top officials working to actively conceal the truth with total disregard for the children who were Sandusky's victims.
Well, here's a look at the charges Spanier faces: perjury, endangering the welfare of children, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and failure to report suspected child abuse. Now, the same charges have been piled on to former Vice President Gary Schultz and ex-athletic director Tim Curley, who were already facing perjury and failure to report child abuse charges. Curley and Schultz are scheduled to be arraigned in Dauphin County tomorrow. Well, Spanier's attorneys fired back immediately. They're pointing the finger at then Attorney General Governor Tom Corbett and the way he handled the Sandusky investigation.
As Pennsylvania's Attorney General, Tom Corbett clearly knew about the allegations against Jerry Sandusky and yet failed to act. And this failure allowed Sandusky to continue to harm children for nearly 3 years. Governor Corbett has made no secret of his personal hostility toward Dr. Spanier, as many witnesses will attest. And he is now manipulating public officials and public resources to settle a personal score.
Well, the governor's spokesman, Kevin Harley, says Spanier's statement, quote, sounds like the ranting of a desperate man who just got indicted. The U.S. Attorney General's office is reviewing a request by 2 state Democrats to investigate Corbett's handling of the Sandusky case.
Well, today's indictment also calls into question Cynthia Baldwin's role in managing the most significant crisis in Penn State history. She was the attorney for the university back then, and tonight, the part she played in the entire thing may determine the fate of Curley and Schultz if they're convicted. CBS 21's Eva Roman is live with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Harrisburg tonight with more on this part of the story. Eva.
Tanya, Graham Spanier, Tim Curley, and Gary Schultz all thought that Cynthia Baldwin was their attorney. She maintained she simply represented the university. And because of that, these 3 men may walk free. Graham Spanier, Tim Curley, and Gary Schultz may end up with a get-out-of-jail-free card, all because of Cynthia Baldwin, who used to be the university's lawyer. She also represented the 3 men, or at least that's what they thought. Court records revealed during the grand jury investigation, Spanier directed Baldwin to go with Curley and Schultz to the grand jury appearances. Baldwin did that, but then she said she wasn't their lawyer and that she represented only the university.
It's illegal for her to be in the grand jury room if she's not representing the witness. And if she is there and not representing the witness, they believe she was the lawyer. They represented to the grand jury she was their lawyer. They told the judge in charge of the grand jury she was their lawyer. If she wasn't, then they were denied their fundamental right to counsel.
Baldwin testified before the grand jury in January of 2011 that Spanier was well aware of the investigation and allegations. At the same time, Spanier regularly checked in with Baldwin for new information about the grand jury's investigation. Now, former Attorney General Walter Cohen believes Baldwin's behavior back then could mean the 3 will walk free.
She said she doesn't think there's a conflict. Well, it went beyond whether there's a conflict. If she's not even representing them and she's in that grand jury room reporting back to Mr. Spanier what these people said who are potentially in conflict with him, that's wrong.
And the Free Report said that Baldwin was more worried about protecting these men, characterizing her representation of Penn State's interest as, quote, seriously deficient. Live with the Dauphin County Mobile Newsroom in Harrisburg tonight, Eva Roman, CBS 21 News.
All right, Eva, thanks. Here's another big question. Would Joe Paterno have been charged if he was still alive today? CBS 21 Sports Director Jason Bristol joins us now with more. Jason?
And Rob, it's a great question. If Joe Paterno was still around, would we have seen his picture on that easel along with Spanier, Curley, and Schultz? Remember, the Free Report blasted Joe Paterno for being involved in a cover-up. So it's no surprise that very question, would Joe Paterno be facing charges, was the first question the Attorney General was asked.
The defendants that have been charged in this case are Curley, Schultz, and Spanier. And I'm not going to speculate or comment on Mr. Paterno's relationship to this investigation. He's deceased, and that's the end of it.
Now, the Free Report suggests that Joe Paterno misled a grand jury after testifying that he wasn't aware of Jerry Sandusky's behavior until 2001. The report shows Paterno not only knew of the '98 investigation, but he followed it very closely. Former Attorney General Walter Cohen told us today that based on that information and what the grand jury was told, he believes Joe Paterno would have been charged, that Joe's picture would be right next to Spanier, Curley, and Schultz's.
I think it would have been. And by saying that, I don't mean that it should have been, because I have problems with this whole concept of this prosecution. However, once Graham Spanier and Curley and Schultz are charged with a conspiracy, it's very clear from the email evidence that Joe Paterno was part of the back and forth of emails, so therefore he would have been part of that conspiracy.
And again, those problems have a lot to do with Cynthia Baldwin's involvement. Obviously, the Paterno family has defended Joe all along, saying he reported the only crime that was brought to his attention, the shower incident involving Mike McQueary. Tanya?
All right, Jason, while Penn State isn't saying much, students at the school are responding to today's developments. While there are many on campus who wanted no part in the ongoing investigation and its fallout, there are plenty who certainly have an opinion on these new charges.
Well, I have to say, I used to really like Spanier. We thought he was like Joe Pa. He was part of the Penn State community. And then when all this happened, we were really disappointed, and I'm glad that justice will hopefully be served.
And obviously this is going to bring it back into the news again. So, but I think it's been a long time coming. I'm glad they're finally moving on with it and starting to proceed into the trials and stuff like that.
And this is clearly not the end of the Sandusky scandal. You can count on CBS 21 News to be there every step of the way. We'll, of course, keep you posted on everything that happens in this investigation. You can see it all here on the air and anytime online, CBS21.com.